Good afternoon. Welcome to the Monday, June 9th meeting of the Riverfront Advisory Committee. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd open it up to public comment. If anyone would like to make one? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to review and approval of the May 19th meeting minutes. I'm all set. Anybody have any comments?
As Ingrid said, short and sweet, and they were great.
Yep. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cheers. So on to regular business today, which is continuing last month's discussion of the Coastal Resiliency Improvement Zone and potential ultimate groundwork towards adopting a 79E tax relief district along the riverfront. So at this time, we'd kind of turn it over to Bart to initiate the discussion. Thanks for the handouts, Bart.
Yeah, no problem. Planning Director. In front of you have two documents, well, one packet and one map. The map is kind of the first crack at establishing a proposed coastal resiliency incentive zone. And I can explain that, the logic behind it in a second. And then the packet is the steps a municipality needs to take to adopt such a zone. And then there's other mechanisms that coastal communities can use that encourage intermunicipality agreements to help pool resources. So kind of that regional cooperation approach, which has its own benefits as well. So the packet, my research, I reached out to Rockingham Planning Commission in Stratford and the State Office of Planning and Development. And Jennifer Rowden sent me this packet right here that they use with their communities. And there's only one community that's adopted this type of zone in the state.
Hampton.
It is Rye. And
Rye.
They adopted it but didn't do anything with it.
Interesting.
So if we were to go down this road, we'd be the second. And, kind of can make it our own. So it's kind of, I think it's, an opportunity to kind of, showcase what we can do and, how to utilize this and, just be on the forefront. So, this zone, so I'm on page 3 if you want to turn to that. I think it's page 3. It's the one that says Community Revitalization Tax Incentive for Coastal Resilience. It looks like this. And what caught my eye is what community areas shall be included. It's the third paragraph down in the zone. And it says verbatim, the Coastal Resiliency Incentive Zone shall encompass all areas that experience the most significant impacts to extreme weather events such as riverine and coastal flooding, erosion, and overall degradation due to natural hazards. However, municipalities may also include other areas that have the potential for stormwater management, flood storage, and similar benefits. So that brings me to my question. Can this zone be expanded from where we have it depicted right now? And it looks like the RSA allows us to do that, which I think is a good opportunity for us, potentially. And I'd like to maybe pause here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good natural part. I think that's kind of what we can start discussing too, is like what people feel in general, because I do think like keeping it non-restrictive is a benefit. Like I think that's a benefit to the town and a potential benefit to more property owners. But is that a shared statement?
Just make it, just saying we can expand it, and Yeah, two things. One, why wouldn't we go down past the water treatment plant?
Yeah.
And if we do go down
Mhm.
past the water treatment plant, is there a potential that we run into conflicts between wastewater discharging into the thing?
No, yeah, the reason why I initially didn't bring it down the river is because a lot of the structures are further back and at a higher elevation. And the models, the climate models that have sea level rise don't depict it going any further to where these structures currently exist, down. So the idea behind this is for property owners to improve their properties and get or their structures and get tax relief from that.
Okay, and the thing that we were, sorry about that.
Yeah.
The thing that we were thinking about was like down by the water treatment plant,
Mhm.
that would make a good area potentially for the living shoreline type of thing. Would that potentially, if we did expand it down there, does that potentially give us an opportunity for funding for living shoreline, another source of funding or whatever?
Yeah, so this specific mechanism is for private property owners. This coastal resiliency zone. So we'd be using something else to do a living shoreline. Yeah, so like a capital reserve fund to help save for those types of projects. There's other mechanisms that we potentially could use to help for those resiliency projects.
And one other comment, then I'll
Yeah.
turn it. Upriver, up the dam side,
Yeah.
on the other side of the dam there. There's a number of condos, and for disclosure purposes, I used to own a condo down there, and I don't own it now, but I still have a lot of friends or people that live down there. I know that potentially they may be looking at doing some stuff. They have a dock there that they are a deck that's currently out in the water that they want to make improvements to, and they have some drainage issues into the river from their parking lot that
Mhm.
they need to address. So could we potentially expand it north of the dam?
It looks like we're allowed to. So with the RSA. So it's not just specifically tied to tidal waters. It could also be rivers as well.
Okay, so you're saying above the dam
Correct.
is not potentially?
We're not precluded to expand it upriver.
Okay.
My understanding of that, this,
Based on,
yeah, based on that.
Would we be, I was looking at the town's flood plan,
Mhm.
floodplain map earlier,
Mhm.
and there's quite a few other areas that are along tributaries and stuff. Should we consider anything that's within that floodplain? Is that something, or is that too widespread?
I think so. We have to look at the regulation, our floodplain regulation, and if we were to go down this path, make sure that they're working together.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's something we can do. I know New Village,
Mhm.
the Piscassic, the confluence there, that's definitely an area of concern, and I think we want to provide some potential relief if and to prepare us for those events. But I just think it's an interesting opportunity that we can expand it out. It seems pretty liberal in its application.
I guess my comment is, it's not free, it's tax relief, but it's being extended, it comes from the town, which means that everybody that pays taxes, to the extent that somebody gets tax relief, it's being funded by all the other property owners in town, and that doesn't mean I'm opposed to that, but I think in the process of going before the town council and saying, what is the idea behind this? It's not, somebody that every individual landowner, I think it's where you to me, I think of this as where you're having sort of public-private projects, some things that require a group of private landowners to try to come up and work together to solve a problem associated with increased flooding. So maybe I'm thinking too narrowly, but from the standpoint of who's going to, presenting this, I mean, also, has Steve given any feedback on this idea yet?
No, because it's kind of generated through drafting the master plan, and we're starting the conversation right now. So I think before we move it up the chain, we want to make sure we have a proposal. To consider. So in order to qualify, one, it's a case-on-case basis. So every application is de novo, so there's no precedent or anything. And then also there has to be a public benefit, and it has to be over a certain amount, $75,000 the cost, and then it does have to provide a public benefit. So again, maybe something we ask legal counsel, but what could that public benefit be? Maybe it's like provide an easement, for access, something like that in order to compensate.
Right. Well, I think, what I think of as one public benefit is if you try to say, I want to address concerns about rising sea level along the downtown waterfront area, it kind of has to be everybody is participating in that. If somebody, doesn't, then the water can come in over the seawall and can flood all kinds of properties. So that's where I thought this might go, is, you're trying to impact infrastructure that impacts multiple private entities, and it's a big chunk, but it's for a good part of it's going to private property owners. I don't know if this mechanism plays there or not,
Yeah.
or if there are other mechanisms that do.
Right. So I think it's if it's strictly for infrastructure purposes, that's maybe more of a capital reserve approach. But if it's a private property owner, private property owner initiated, there has to be a public benefit to it if taxpayer money is being granted. So what that is, I can't say right now.
You have another question, Adam? The area of the businesses on the west side of 108 there, how do they qualify? What's the
So
logic
yeah,
behind
right
that?
now I left them out just because of elevation. So basically my logic behind this proposed zone is all the riverfront properties, and then basically I followed the 2006, 2008 Mother's Day flood pattern, or where the water went, and included those properties as well, and then stopped at higher elevation properties. So if you see right here, if you're looking at it, it's we got part of Creighton Street, Water Street, a little of Cologne, a little of was it Prescott, and then I think I forget the cross street going out to 108 there. Short. Thank you, Lindsay. And then all those 108 properties along Exeter Road to the Dynamite. And then at that point it goes up. And then we have Moonlight Brook coming from the south, but we've done some improvements there, so hopefully, if we do have any events, it's less impactful, less damage, I should say, and more impactful in preservation and preventing such events. So that's why I just picked those properties, but these locations, because where a lot of the structures are. That's why I didn't include Heron Point at all, because there's nothing there. It's just conservation, and then DPW is at higher elevation too. So just pick the low points along the river and along Moonlight Brook watershed. What I can do next steps, if we want to expand it out, I can do the same exercise as where I'm thinking maybe we could potentially expand this and then we can have a conversation on if, if it's warranted or not, based on what you're saying, Dale, where's the public benefit if we do expand it out? What if this were to occur, how would the public be, benefit from it? So,
It seems like since there's so few, like really no other town has used it. One other town put it in place and none has used it. That it would be really useful to be able to present to people an example of how it might be used, what that would look like. What would be an example of something that would be likely to be used that way, and is there kind of a best case scenario that we could come up with where this would be something, if you're trying to explain it to the council, that they, or you just want it in the toolbox because it might be useful sometime, but I think that does have to go through the council to get approved, right?
correct. It can either go to warrant or council. So it depends on how council wants to handle it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here thinking about some of those seawalls that I've seen going up on Wallace Sands Beach.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if that's,
But that's public,
It's state.
yeah.
Well,
all that, not the state park,
Oh.
but down along Wallace Sands Beach, as you go down up past the houses, there are some that are strictly in front of the houses that,
Yeah, and I think though, in most of those cases, that's gonna be borne by the landowner. They're trying to protect their threat is so immediate and
Right.
so big that what they're looking for is permission to have a seawall, not expecting anybody else to help them
right.
pay for it.
No, what I'm thinking is if we're presenting this as, it has to be a private property investment, and it's a tax relief for the private individual, but it has to have a public benefit. That's the kind of thing I'm envisioning. That would be a public benefit, and the water wouldn't then rush out to Ocean Boulevard. And I used to live there and saw it rush out to Ocean Boulevard.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're talking about doing like non-hardened seawall or whatever. That would be the public benefit of not creating a hardscape seawall that pushes the water somewhere else. If it's something that can do tidal or flood like mitigation or impoundment instead.
Yeah.
So I think what I'll do is, when I'm thinking about these zones, or the zone, is, where would that nexus between private and public benefit be? And then create some scenarios
Right.
for us to,
So people
just
can
think about. And
envision what they might do.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can just go on from there.
And I guess that some of the other, we expanded to include all the floodplain properties, make sure that they are attached to some public walkway or
Right.
conservation land or something like that.
Yeah, and even if there is an
Or
existing,
back up to, yeah.
existing public, what if, part of the agreement was it becomes
Mhm.
public as well.
Mhm.
So in this relief, so I think we can kind of, I think what we want to do is, what do we envision this area, these areas to become? What would we like them to become? And, and then maybe this tool will get us there, potentially.
Do you have any idea of what the percentage of tax relief would be? I mean, is it based on how much the project is?
Yeah, it's a case-
What did Rye put in place, if you happen to know?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's the select board or council, that's a case-by-case basis. They can provide up to a certain amount. So
Mhm.
based on, certain factors, it could be adjusted.
Mhm.
Yeah. So basically, it's just an agreement,
Mhm.
a contract between the town and the property owner for a certain amount of time. I don't know off the top of my head, it's capped or not, but I can refresh my memory and come back with an answer.
I just want to be clear about something. This isn't strictly for private property, right? This also applies to municipal areas.
No, this is private property.
Not how I read it.
So basically, a private property owner would ask for this relief if their projects were to provide a public benefit. So they give some examples here. If you go to page 5 in the green box, this
Where, I'm sorry, where?
page 5, you read the green box right there. They give an example how a private property owner on a river has significant erosion and it's impacting the municipal lot, so like a parking lot or something. And they're asking for relief to make the repairs so that not only their property but the municipal lot is not further impacted. So there you go. There's the connection between the public benefit of providing tax relief to the property owner.
But, I'm saying, so, but then, 2 down, what is the CRIZ fund? Municipalities may create a non-lapsing CRC fund as a capital reserve fund under RSA blah, 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 or a town creates a trust fund, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
to provide funding for projects that address storm surge, sea level rise, and extreme precipitation.
Yeah. So basically, that is a capital reserve fund. So something that we spoke about last meeting that would be a saving account for us for projects that we want to build in over time.
These funds can be used for grant match or cost sharing for coastal resilient projects identified in master plans, hazard mitigation programs, or other studies. So doesn't that open us up to municipal?
Yeah. So that's the same thing. That's what the our existing capital reserve funds allows us to do that already. So if we were to establish one for this area, we could use it for this purpose.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be for private property.
Correct.
Okay. So
Two
it could
separate
be-
things.
Okay, so we could, this approval of this could in fact be used by the town of Newmarket on municipal properties if we had something in our master plan to mitigate sea level rise or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be 2 different votes. One to establish the zone,
Mhm.
and then the other one to establish the capital reserve fund. And they're 2 separate mechanisms.
Oh, okay, all right, so the capital reserve fund can be used anywhere technically, I guess, not outside of the coastal resiliency zone. Is that-
Yeah, we would have to write it for a specific geographic, so we basically would match. We either have it for a different purpose, like the riverfront, the capital reserve fund, or we could have it mirror the coastal resiliency zone.
Okay, let's use, I'm sorry. Schanda Park, say we want to do, we're concerned about sea level
Yes.
rise at Schanda Park, and we
Yes.
want to do something there.
Yes.
Could we, because it's within the coastal resilience zone, and because it's municipal property, can we do something for sea level rise at Schanda Park under this program? Or is it a separate thing?
Yes.
Can I take, Joe, the money that we're talking about, 75,000, it's coming from the town. So if we don't have to, if we want to spend 75,000 on Schanda Park, we don't have to do it through the tax relief because the money is, you have to be paying, Newmarket doesn't pay taxes
But
to it.
say
so-
we were able to get some kind of a grant under the coastal resiliency funds or whatever, something related, because it's in a coastal resiliency area, potentially are we eligible to get maybe some funds at some point in time?
Yeah, so they're separate, they're independent from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one mechanism is providing private property tax relief.
Mhm.
The second one is allowing municipalities to save for infrastructure projects or improvements to the zone. And the third one is allowing regional cooperations between municipalities to save for projects. So that you basically pool funds in order to make infrastructure improvements. that benefit both regional municipalities.
So in my example of doing something for Schanda Park, the Coastal Resiliency Zone really,
Zone doesn't matter, it's the fund that matters. And that fund has to have you have to define the geography of that fund, where that can be expended.
So Schanda Park would basically be dependent upon grants. I mean,
No,
the town budgeting money.
Correct.
And grants that we may receive from the state or other agencies to make those improvements.
That's
so
correct.
the fact that it's in a Coastal Resiliency Zone has no super benefit for it, no real benefit.
Correct. Yeah, that's how I
For
interpret
that
it.
specific.
I guess that's what I was getting
Yeah.
at. Does it give us any benefit by picking?
Right.
I think it shows if you establish a zone that you're serious about, the improvements and the direction that you're going. So I don't think it's, useless not doing it.
Yeah, call it indirect benefit, because it's like when you apply for all these grants, they ask you like basically like, well, what do you do? Like, do you just talk about stuff and want free money, or you do stuff and this is something you can show
Are you
as the
planning for
town's
it?
making
Right.
action.
Right.
It's a priority for the town, and you can write about it as a, actual step implemented to improve condition. So the town would benefit from it, indirectly through that. Yeah, no, thanks for putting the map together, Bart. I mean, I think going north of the dam on some of the freshwater part is definitely viable, because everything there ends up below the dam eventually. So,
Yeah.
But an instance would be the park that's up beyond 108, adjacent to where the church thrift shop is.
Yep, so.
For instance, if there's, that's a public land, it abuts the river, and if there's improvements that need to be done to a dock or some sort of mitigation that's needed to impact, well, that's town, forget it. I'm not saying.
Well, it's an easement, so it is private property.
Yes.
The town holds an easement. there,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Again, so that'll be part of my my task is to see where these scenarios could occur, where the public benefit. But we'll just say in that example right there, maybe the adjacent property. Significant erosion is happening. It's impacting the easement park. What if they engage in this process to get tax relief, and then they give an easement to the town as part of the deal to extend that public access along the Lamprey River. So that's something I can foresee happening.
And then if those easements have limitations, then what do you do after a period of time? Like if you are providing, say, an easement for the public to be able to access a particular area, and then do you do it for a term, then what happens after 5 years when the property owner says, okay, 5 years is up?
I don't think you do it for a term. I don't think.
Something like that, public
Yeah,
easement
it
would have to be
in
perpetual.
perpetuity. Yeah, I think.
Perpetual.
That'd be an awfully long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to the, yeah.
Perpetuity.
Right. Yeah, I would advocate for that.
Mhm,
Something longer than that.
Yeah.
RPC think more people were gonna do this. Like, I'm
I think
surprised
the
to
whole-
see such a robust guidance
I think the
document.
whole state thought so.
Yeah.
So I can see if outside. Well, I guess no. There's just no other community, not even inland, because you can do riverines. So, so yeah, it's
I mean, I think you just have to imagine where it might be useful. I mean, I think there are parts of, we know we've got a lot of mixed public and private lands in the downtown area, and I think it could be a useful tool for you can sort of barter, to use one word. You say, yes, this would be the benefit if we were able to do this project. This is what be the outcome, and here is what of the value is available.
I think part of the challenge you have is that a lot of private property owners on coastal property have the means to keep their property private and have the means to mitigate whatever coastal damage or seawall or whatever needs to be constructed, they have the financial means to do it. They don't need a tax incentive, which is probably why Rye has done nothing with it.
Right.
And none of our other coastal communities are moving forward with it.
I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is a truth to
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I'll look at the map and our floodplains and other areas that qualify and see what kind of makes sense and put it on a map and bring it back.
Yeah. I mean, before we kind of put a total, bow on this portion of the conversation, is anyone opposed, I guess, or not liking what they hear? It seems like a potentially no negative, only positives to be determined based on how it's formally written and what projects ever might make it before, but I'm not seeing an obvious downside, I guess, just personally. But again, I'm just curious if that's a shared position.
No, I think it's intriguing, and I would like to see it, I'm happy to see it move forward as a tool in the toolbox, so to speak. I think that getting more of a idea about where this might be useful, especially since it hasn't been used anywhere, because the only cost involved is the work of taking it, through the council, presenting it to the voters. I think you have to be prepared to answer questions. You have to be prepared to lay out the case for making it available, and including having an example of where it might be used. Because the people are going to figure out this is something that it won't be just for something that benefits the private landowner, that helps them with their mitigation, unless there's a public benefit in. And so, I can see where it would be useful, but if it's not going to be used, then you've expended effort and not gaining anything. So that's the only caveat I have is I think but if people want to move forward with it, I'm certainly not opposed to it. I just think that's what I could foresee happening.
Yeah, and there's other approaches too, like if establishing a tax increment fine. It's basically what this is, but there's other. It's just in a different shell, tax increment finance district, and so again, I'll just come up with a revision, and then give a couple scenarios.
Do you think ultimately like SRPC or Rockingham or somebody would support that conversation, the town council?
Yeah.
Just to kind of minimize the town's direct effort on it, I guess. But,
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll follow up with Ride too and get the full story. Why didn't they move forward with it? So we kind of just get confirmation.
They did put it in place, it just nobody
They approved
chose
it.
to.
They're just not. They approved it. The voters just never moved forward with it.
Do you know if anyone moved forward and the town council denied it?
What was that? Sorry.
Do you know if anyone did try to move forward with it and it was denied by council or select?
That I do not know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that would
can
be
follow up
interesting.
with- yeah.
How difficult is the municipality making it for people to get this
Mhm.
incentive? I don't know, just devil's advocate, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, as I'm looking at this, how many potential private property owners do we have on here who might be able to access it?
Well, we got the mills, and then next to Bryan Rock, that property. I think that's 6 Bay Road, or no, 8. And then, let's see, we got the church, we got Lang's Wharf. And
Does
then,
the church doesn't pay any taxes anyways, or do they?
no, they don't, yeah.
So can anybody that doesn't pay taxes benefit from it?
It's a good question, I don't know.
Is it the church at a higher enough
Elevation.
elevation that it's not warranted?
Potentially, but also a stormwater.
Yeah,
So
oh,
we've
that's
got a
true.
lot, flow
Yeah.
coming down.
Just
Yeah.
coming down Water Street.
Yeah.
That's why you get that corner.
And definitely Creighton Street area, like the Bowl, and then along Exeter Road. I mean, you have those higher elevation properties, out to the west on Exeter Road, but what if they're redeveloped and move closer? Just
Yes.
hypothetical. Or there's more significant erosion that happens during an event that, they would need it. So, Dino Mart, and then those, I think most vulnerable is along Exeter Road on the east side. And in addition to the Creighton Street and Prescott Street areas. So, but what I'll do is, look at areas of steep slope as well, which can be included in here for stormwater purposes. So yeah, so it's just a lot more to look at and see, where would the most benefit be for the public and where are the most vulnerable properties to help. So more work to be done.
Yeah. No, again, just speaking personally, it still seems to be of benefit. It shows the town willingness to establish it. It might help with future redevelopment project. I don't think it's a major lift, to ultimately go before town council, especially if we can get any sort of outside assistance of it. And again, just the indirect thing. I mean, most of what we've talked about in these park improvements, like sure, the town can fund some of it, but it's going to look for outside money. And I've never filled out a grant application that basically hasn't asked about this kind of stuff, or like, what are you doing to finance or establish zones like this? So now we can say we have.
Hey, if something comes up at a later time that we want to expand the area, something comes up, and what's the process? Do we have to go through the whole application all over again?
Yeah, you follow the same process. Town council can vote to expand the zone.
To expand it?
Or, again, they can, if they don't want to do it and bring it to the voters, they can send it to the voters as well for town meeting.
So do we need to vote on anything at this time about
I don't
that?
think we're ready.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready.
I think, well, how about this? Do you want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll do that and kind of bring back a new map. And again, like I said, some potential case study or future potential projects that could theoretically happen, maybe.
Just one question too, Bart, about the map. There's a building up near the dam that's not pinked.
Oh yeah, that is the book exchange.
Yes, is there a reason?
I thought it was basically at the dam, above the dam.
Okay.
So it's not really tidally influenced at all.
Okay.
That's why, but given this information, we could probably include it, in this, and same thing with, what was that, Forebay? The old Select Wood building.
Yeah. I mean, especially the water underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a huge surge, that definitely runs into a problem coming up from those lower.
Precisely.
Yeah, I think continue to discuss in July with potential at that point maybe to vote on something with a final amendment to ultimately go to town council for some level of consideration.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your work, Bart.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, definitely interested what Rye has to say. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Counterpart's got any info to tip.
Yeah, no, so I'll be back with some more information. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Nice. So I know tomorrow.
Can I just have,
Yep.
Can I just ask one more question, Bart? At what point was this RSA voted in? Do you recall the year?
I believe 2018,
Okay.
17, 18. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. the bottom of the RSA language says effective September 3rd, 2017.
Okay,
I don't know if that's referencing this one, but
Yeah.
line up with what Bart just said.
yeah.
The only other thing that's kind of immediately springing to mind is that tomorrow's planning board session, I believe, is when they're talking about the Riverfront chapter.
No, they're gonna talk about energy.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind, I wrote all this.
I'll bring it up.
All right, well, I'm glad you did. I'm very sure nothing felt sour about it tomorrow.
No, so they decided to focus on energy at this tomorrow's meeting. And they're just going to do a chapter at a time. They're going to have a workshop before every plan board meeting from here on out till they're finished. And my anticipation is the approach is that they're just going to get everything finalized and wait. And then, as the chapters get reviewed and finalized, and they'll hold a public hearing. But again, at the next meeting, I'll have a better read or understanding on how they're going to review and hold the public hearings. If it's going to be on a rolling basis or all at once. So,
Gotcha.
But everyone's more than welcome to come.
Are they starting at 6 or are they starting earlier
6
than
o'clock.
6?
Yep, they're going to be downstairs for this meeting in the auditorium. Charter Commission has this room for 7, so we just moved everything downstairs. I know it says on the website,
The other way around.
yeah, but we'll just put a note on the door saying we're downstairs.
So predominantly energy tomorrow, not really discussion.
Exclusively, yeah.
Of
Yeah.
the Riverfront stuff.
Okay.
Are the workshops going to be on their normally scheduled programming, or are they going to be like?
It's gonna be a separate like if you're watching it, it's gonna have its own video, and then planning board. So they're gonna be exclusive.
Are they gonna be on the same night of it? Will it be on the?
6
Might
p.m.
happen first and then the planning board follows or vice versa? Or-
Yep, 6 p.m. workshop and 7 p.m. regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, if it gets discussed tomorrow, I guess, can you just let us know? I'm just thinking of interval, like, I think the next planning board meeting would occur before the next meeting of this.
Okay.
Like, so if they decide that they're gonna talk about Riverfront in July, I think that would be July 8th. We don't meet again. till
Yeah, I would
July 13th.
notify you all, if,
So.
so you can be in attendance and, if you, yes. So, that, to prevent from that happening.
Okay. All right, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed your chair. I got one more question for you.
I've been sitting down all day, so.
So we talked about this implementation grid with Liz for a bit. Is there a further or final update of this that got generated? Because I want to say there was one or two things that we might have scratched off here, and I know we talked about the priorities. Like we discussed, like kind of what the group sees as priorities as well. So is there like a final version of this? That
There's
exists?
not yet, no.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I plan on doing it this month in
Okay.
preparation for, well, I gotta figure out what chapter they wanna review next.
Yeah.
If it is Riverfront, then that would be generated
Okay.
prior to the meeting.
Okay. The thought process being more like, I know we're kind of talking through the 79E stuff as, just kind of an action item right now. The chapter's coming to, ultimate completion and acceptance by the planning board, which will kind of formalize it and let it act as that agenda moving forward. But wanted to come back to this at some point and talk again about those priorities. And again, maybe after the dust settles next month with the 79E stuff, well, what are we doing next? Like, almost like, do we kind of divide and conquer a little bit, within this committee so everyone can kind of focus on one thing or something, provide some updates, move it a little bit each month, and we can kind of move all these things? Or do we want to, again, just pick one and beat it to death and move on. Like, so some of that discussion, I think, is sort of the next frontier.
Yeah, I think you can talk about process, not necessarily the items, but how you
Yeah.
want to do it. And then once the plan board kind of finalizes the list, then you have something to work off of, and you have the process already established.
Yeah.
So that'd be, I think there's nothing preventing you from doing that, I think. I think it'd be a little
Yeah.
cart before the horse if you start prioritizing items before the plan board, finalizes everything.
So yeah, I would agree with that. We can kind of start that conversation next month as well on the, the tail end of the 79E stuff of just how do we want to approach that? Kind of start thinking about that, because the hope is once that chapter is adopted, this kind of memorializes all this stuff as the actual kind of planning list and agenda for this committee moving forward. Other than that, I don't really have anything else I was planning on discussing today. Does anyone?
I'm wondering if we have an update on the Moonlight Brook. I think we were getting some grants or something for testing. Yeah.
Yes, not grant, but
Okay.
a loan with principal forgiveness.
Okay.
Similar idea.
Okay.
We do have the funds from the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Program, Clean Water SRF. We have started that work. Geosyntec has been out in Moonlight Brook. They started the week right after Memorial Day.
Okay.
And they've sampled or inspected 8 of our outfalls, storm drain outfalls, collected samples at the ones that had flow. There were a few that had a trickle of flow during dry weather. So they collected samples there, and then they've been working through the catchments to check catch basins and manhole structures moving upstream to track down where that flow is coming from.
Okay.
I think 3 of the catchments are 100% complete on the investigation, and the remaining 5 are still in progress.
Okay.
And kind of as a sort of dovetails a little bit with that work, I also heard that the UNH research team has been out doing the sampling in Moonlight Brook through the Lamprey River Advisory Committee.
Great.
So they're kind of tangent efforts, and I want to make sure that we can kind of coordinate our dates to see if we're out on the same date, if we're able to compare our results and findings in similar areas. So that work is underway.
Great.
Is it harder, or is it good that we're getting all this rain, or does it not matter, or is it complicated in a negative way?
It complicates it for the effort that we're doing in the storm drains themselves, because we need dry weather to get our dry weather inspections and determine if there's flow when there shouldn't be. So yeah, that we're hoping to get that started sooner, and that's been challenging. We have to have at least 48 hours of no rain, no precipitation to get the dry weather inspections and have them meet the criteria for EPA. So yeah, that's been a little bit of a challenge. I don't think that the UNH effort and the sampling that they're doing in the stream itself has the same restrictions. They do try to get some during rain events, because they're just getting the stream flows and not the infrastructure flows. We're focusing on the infrastructure that feeds into that, so
I don't
a
think
little bit different approach.
the data collection process is impacted by the precipitation. I know like 2 years ago, maybe 3, well, they had one version where like all of their sample dates were right after rainstorms though, and they basically threw up their hands and said like, yeah, it's terrible. Like,
Right.
So it obviously might be like creating more contamination events or skewing the results higher by how much precipitation there's been.
Yep.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other kind of thoughts for the day?
Sorry, I want to stand up one more time. We had an impromptu meeting with state parks. They were actually visiting different sites where they contributed money over the years, and one of them is Schanda Park. And it might be a good grant opportunity. When we were thinking about improvements in Schanda Park, to utilize them as a funding source. There has to be a recreation nexus between any of the projects, but I think the Schanda Park area is like, a slam dunk case. And they're also, what they are really keen on is resiliency in any of these improvements. And they do get a significant amount of money from the federal government, fingers crossed, but there's a lot already allocated. And while we're not ready right now, I think in the year or two we would be prepared for something. So it's pretty. Sorry.
So if Schanda Park is part of the Coastal Resiliency Zone,
Yeah.
is that?
Yes.
You can say to them, oh, yeah, well, this is part of our resiliency zone.
Yeah. So I think you can say, hey, we have a living shoreline. We want to expand recreation opportunity, public, Schanda Park, a waterfront. So yes. So we could supplement the money that we save through our Coastal Resiliency Fund with this grant money that we would maybe get from national parks. Yeah. So, but I thought that was nice to hear. It was a kind of a serendipitous meeting. So something to keep in mind. And as we update our action plan, implementation plan, that could be as a funding source. So.
Do we have like a rough time frame? At some point in time, we know Moonlight Brook there, we're going to have to take out those pipes and make that like a free flowing area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any vision of a time frame when we might be doing stuff like that?
Not necessarily. I think it's something that staff will have to get together and kind of, once we have all of our pieces together, identify funding opportunities, how much money we can save over time, and then we can and then what we need to do to get to that point. There's going to be analysis required to understand the culvert area, as you pointed out.
It's also the sewer main or something.
There's a sewer main there, so there's some complexity there. And then also, ultimately, what do we want it to become? So let's have those conversations as well.
So we're still looking like 2-3 years down the road here at least, probably.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, just kind of.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
There's a lot of project. It's a lot of things that if you do all those things, that you're addressing a lot of long-term needs for the town's infrastructure, for resilience, for updating Schanda Park. So it may not be big acres, but it is big in terms of what it would do.
But there's a lot of funding sources too. There's a lot of overlapping elements that people or entities are willing to give money for to help improve. So let's say Moonlight Brook, like that improvement, the recreation aspect. So you put them all together, you can pull that money in. So if there's more synergy involved, the more opportunity we have for grants.
Right. And I'm not even looking at the fund at this point. It's just like, what do we want to do? What are we going to do? What are we planning on doing?
And I think we can start those conversations now. Once we get the implementation matrix done, then we can start putting out a timeline. All right, what do we want to do and how do we get there? So
That's
this fall. How about that, Joe? This fall.
it's our main goals. one of our
That's
main
right.
goals, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they are the primary goals, and I feel like a portion or a primary focus of the master plan process has been used that to be the blueprint for when you approach budgetary committee, finance committee for projects. Say like, well, this is what we
Just
said
wanna
were the
budget
primary
for.
goals of this.
Yeah, and what we want to budget for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
July 14th.
Oh.
July, yeah, sorry.
Next meeting.
Addendum, July 14th.